this session tonight so that we can make sure that our families who are unable to make it will still be able to get all of the information, because there is a lot of information contained in this presentation. So what we're going to ask is that during this time, if you would save your questions. So as we're going through, if you maybe on the side would just keep notes rather than throwing them in the chat or throwing them in the Q&A section. In fact, let's just decide right now we're going to use the chat feature for our questions at the end. So because as we're going through, the chat sometimes gets lost along the way and we don't want to miss any questions. So if you would just make note of it on the side, and then we'll give you some time at the end to put those questions in the chat, and then we'll be able to address them from that point. And I do see that I have one question, and Mr. Britt, I will make sure I get to you before we end this evening. So thank you for being patient with that. So we just want to welcome you. We are incredibly excited to be at this point in this moment, being able to talk about being back on campus. This has been a long, long year, and there were many times we were hopeful, and now it's just awesome that we get to be here at this point. So we're really, really excited to share a lot of information with you this evening, and then we'll be sharing more as we go throughout, even over the next few weeks, and as we monitor and adjust and all of those kinds of things. So for our agenda tonight, I just want to welcome you, but I also just want to take a moment and introduce you, if you haven't already met, our two assistant principals. My name is Michelle Suter. I'm the principal. I'd like to introduce Mary Kate Grant, who is one of our assistant principals. You can unmute, Mary Kate.
Thank you, Michelle. I just want to say thank you for everyone for joining us here tonight. We're very excited to receive your child or children here at Gig Harbor High School, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything.
Thank you, Mary Kate. And our assistant principal, Jason Gregory.
Hola, buenas noches. Hello, good to see you all out there in Zoom land, or you see us, but we are just so thrilled to welcome you, our students, back to Gig Harbor High School. We've been seeing a few of you, but it's going to be so great to see you this week and next week.
Gracias. Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Appreciate that. And then we're going to talk about lots of different things. We'll be talking about the start date, the different schedules, our health and safety protocols, which are going to allow us to continue in the hybrid model, our transportation, school meals, how to get involved here at Gig Harbor High School, how to receive communications from us, and then we'll end with questions at the end. So again, if you would just write those questions down and keep them off to the side, then we'll be able to address them all here at the end. As we start this evening, I want to share with you what your students are going to see, or what our students are going to see when they return to campus. And I can't remember, do I need to mute or not mute? Not mute. Okay, I'm looking at Mr. Gregory. Okay, here we go.
Hey, Tide.
Hey, Tide.
We're so excited to go back to school.
And for the next few minutes, we're going to show you what it looks like to be back on campus for in-person learning.
And what you can do to help keep it that way.
But first, here are a few words from our amazing principal, Mrs. Suter. Hi, Tide. This is Mrs. Suter, principal here at Gig Harbor High School. We're so excited to have you guys back on campus. Can't wait to get you here. And while you guys start to prepare to come back, we just want to remind you of three really important things. We call them the 3 W's that we need everybody to adhere to while we're on campus. The first one is to wear a mask, watch your distance, and then to wash your hands. When we do that, we can provide a safe environment for everybody. If you guys have any questions along the way as we get going and you're not sure of something, don't hesitate to reach out to any of your teachers, staff members, or your admin team. We're here and we just can't wait. Now let's go back to Gracie and Anthony, who are going to tell us more.
When I get to school, I have to bring a couple extra things, like my attestation form and my mask.
When I'm waiting to go in the building, I practice safe social distancing.
I wait my turn to go to school. I turn in my completed form. Then I go inside to have my temp check.
If you don't have a completed form, you must stop and fill one out before entering the building. You must have a completed form to enter the school every day. Every person entering the school will be temperature checked. Once I'm inside, I continue to practice social distancing.
The class must be rearranged so I can be safe in school.
It looks like we're taking a test every day, but at least I have my friends here, that we're not stuck on Zoom anymore.
Whenever possible, I wash my hands. I can also use one of the hand sanitizer stations located throughout the school. This is a reality, guys. I know it's a little different, but we should work together to make it a great year. We gotta wear a mask all day, but we gotta stay safe. I know we can do this.
I don't know about you, but I am so ready. Are you ready to roll?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
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 I am so ready.
We have the best students. It was just so much fun to see them on that. So we're excited. We'll be sharing that with the whole student body when they come back. But our next thing is Mr. Gregory is going to kind of lead us through the hybrid learning. Or is this me? That's you. Or is it me?
I think it's you. I'm the
Okay,
next.
thanks. All right. So first, I just want to share with you before we move forward, and I think this is a really important piece, and we shared this last night at our remote learning parent information night. Is I think it's really important for us to understand where we've come from and where we are right now. This remote hybrid dual platform model took a long time to kind of solidify. And it was developed by our secondary advisory team, which consisted of teachers and counselors, building administrators, district administrators. I mean, it really represented the entire district. And so this work began back in October when we started having these conversations. And so we're just so excited that this is a very collaborative process that we're in. And we've all kind of arrived in this amazing place.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the return to school. So we are beginning our remote and hybrid bell schedules this Thursday, March 11th. So there's no homeroom tomorrow, the 10th. And then this Thursday, March 11th, both the remote and the hybrid bell schedules both begin. The hybrid students in grades 10 to 12 are going to have asynchronous or independent instruction on those days. Our remote students on those days will have a regular school day. This reason is so that our teachers can be in the building to welcome our freshmen as they come on campus Thursday and Friday, the 11th and 12th. So freshman orientation, or we're calling them freshman days. Cohort A of freshmen are joining us, and I'm so excited. Thursday, March 11th. And then Friday, March 12th, cohort B will come. They're going to be going through a whole regular bell period day. We'll have a nice assembly for them at the end of the day. We're just going to be giving tours. The leadership kids have been working really hard with Mr. Millard to just make the school welcoming and just show them a little bit about what it means to be a Tide. All students will be back on Monday, March 15th or Tuesday, March 16th, depending on which cohort they're in. And if you log into PowerSchool, or your child does, you can see which cohort you're in there. That information has been sent out. Okay, bell schedules. There they are. So first, the in-person bell schedule, it says March 15th to June 23rd, although we actually shifted that. So that's starting March 11th. The in-person bell schedule for our hybrid students. The first period is going to be a little bit longer just to make sure we all get the kids checked in the door with their attestation forms. And then there are 55-minute classes, 2 lunches, which I'll talk about in a moment. 5-minute passing, and we're building a little extra cleaning time into those classes at the very end. And then Wednesday's schedule, those are shorter classes. It is a late start to allow our staff time to collaborate in their professional learning communities. We get started at first period at 8:30, half-hour Zoom classes. At this time, all A, B, and C cohort students are going to be in those classes. And then we will have a homeroom at 10:15. That is the same homeroom your child has had all year long for 45 minutes. Lunch will be a little longer on the online days, 11 to 11:45. Student support time, also known as office hours. That's a great time for a kid to get help with a teacher. And then the other 3 periods of the day. Again, on Wednesdays, periods 1 to 6, they're 30 minutes each, and all classes are remote, whether your child is in the A cohort or the B cohort. Mrs. Grant.
Mrs. Grant.
Thank you, Jason. First and foremost, I would just like to say to everybody that we are committed to the health and safety of all of our students and all of our staff. And on behalf of Michelle and Jason, we're really proud of the work that we've done throughout the year since students have been in the building since September 8th. So beginning with the daily health check, I know that some of you are familiar with the emails that have gone out, with the updates that have gone out on protocols for attestation and coming into school. You just saw recently the video of our students really exciting, holding up the attestation form. I'd like to let you know that on the first day of school, every student will receive all the attestation forms that they need for the remainder of the school year. So we want to make sure that they get put in a safe place at home so that families can fill them out the night before or at the morning at breakfast time. Of course, if you run out, please let us know, but be looking for on Monday and Tuesday, the entire packet for the remainder of the school year, and that you can get names and dates filled out. And then just on the day of school, do a quick check through the attestation check boxes. What we want to impress upon everyone is we know that there are days where your child will feel ill, under the weather. It's really, really important that we keep students home that are not feeling well, especially if they exhibit some of those symptoms that you'll find on the attestation form. But that being said, we want everybody in this building that's healthy, ready to learn. They need to bring that attestation form and they'll be good to go in the morning. Okay, as shared, some of those symptoms, it's so important when they walk through the door after they turn in that attestation form, their temperature will be taken. If a student's temperature is above 100.4, protocol is in place that either our nurse or health tech will work privately and closely with the student and myself as the COVID supervisor to make sure that the student is taken well cared for, and then sent home until they're healthy. As for movements, we are going to be moving in this building. We are so excited, and we have 6 periods. So students are going to be not only moving in through the door, but then from point A to point B every class period. And what we want you to know is that we're going to help students understand that in order for us to stay safe and remain in the building, we have to move fairly quickly from first period to second period. We can't hang out for long periods of times, but we sure can pass by and say hi to each other in the hallway and wave or spend a 10-second catch up. But for the most part, we're going to encourage students and staff to move quickly throughout the building. The doors in the entire building will remain locked at all times, except for the main entrance throughout the day. We have some buildings, portables, those of you that are familiar with Gig Harbor High School, portables, some of the art classes out there. We will have the doors open between each passing period so students can return to the main building. The purpose of doors staying locked is we want to make sure that students who arrive late from an appointment or an activity, whatever it is, that they go through the attestation process in the main entrance each day. So we're going to monitor and adjust, like Mrs. Suter said, if there's a more efficient way to do this, but we will have all doors remained locked and ask anyone that arrives after 7:30 to come through the main entrance. All right, masks. I'm so proud of our staff and students. This is just, it's not an issue. Everybody knows how to wear their masks. They wear them, they bring them. On the chance that a student forgets a mask, we have hundreds and hundreds. So we'll be able to pass out if students are in need of the mask. What's most important though, your child's teachers will have to at times remind students to wear the mask correctly. So it has to fit over the nose, down to the chin, be tight along and around the ears. And unfortunately, we can't wear bandanas or gaiters. So that's something that's really important to share with your child if they've been used to a gaiter or bandana for the past month or year wearing a mask. They're required in all class, masks are required from 7 o'clock in the morning when a teacher or a student arrives in the building till the end of the day when a student or teacher leaves, except for lunchtime. And so students will be, Mr. Gregory's going to talk a little bit about lunchtime and he'll touch base on that, but they will be wearing a mask except for when they're eating lunch. Okay. Yes, and the most important there is just the mask not only protects us, but everybody else around us. So this is where the challenge is going to be, and we already can anticipate this. Social distancing, remaining 6 feet apart. We have to teach our students how to social distance, because I am here to tell you that when they get off the bus or you drop them off or the student drives themselves, after a year, they're going to be really excited to come to this campus. They're going to innately want to hug someone or high five, and we already know that. But we are going to teach them how to be excited on that very first day, but then to maintain social distancing. And we're just going to remind students throughout the day, day after day, week after week. It's just something that we're all going to get used to. But they've done, those that have been on campus have done a fabulous job. But please just know that students will pass by during passing periods, and it's okay to pass by a student as long as they don't stop and hang out, as I said. So, excuse me, they're going to follow the social distancing while they're walking down the hallway as much as possible. But if there's a brief 4 foot, 5 foot, please know that that's safe and that we will maintain social distancing as much as possible and remind students as often as we need. Next. We've got cleaning dialed in as well, since we've been in the building since September 8th. And just a shout out to our custodial staff in the district who've really helped and supported us, making sure that we have all the supplies that we need to keep everybody safe and healthy. So custodians will be working throughout the day, every hour, doing all high touch areas. So doorknobs, front door entrances, entrances that students are coming in, wiping down tables in the commons or at lunchtime. And that will happen regularly throughout the day. And then in the evening, we'll first go into the classroom. During the day in the classroom, teachers will be spraying down desks. Students will be wiping down with a paper towel as they're transitioning to their next class. But in the evening, then the custodial staff will be doing a deep clean of all classrooms, replenishing all safety supplies, wipes, paper towels, spray for the desks, hand sanitizers, and then making sure that every classroom is checked off each evening, prepared, ready for teachers to return the next day. And individual workspaces is a teacher responsibility. Thank you. PE and locker rooms. Really, really excited that our students get to actually enter the locker room and participate in PE. But like everything, there are some guidelines that we need to adhere to and some protocols. So if you look at this slide here, you can see cohort A, it's color coded, period 1 through 6. Each student, each period is identified with a color, and then each student is assigned a specific locker that will remain their locker and their place to sit and stow their, that locker is where they'll stow their belongings. And then if they have to sit, if there's a meeting before they go out into the gym or participating in class, they have a designated place to sit. And then between each class, everything's wiped down and prepared for the next class coming in. So it's not mandatory that students change. So it really is personal decision based on students and families. So we encourage you, if your child has PE, to talk to them. The locker rooms are will be cleaned in between every class like other classrooms, and students, if they're comfortable and feel safe changing, there'll be 6 feet between each locker. So it's really personal choice. And then if someone doesn't want to go into the locker room, doesn't want to change, the only expectation we have is that they wear comfortable clothing if they're going to wear them throughout the day, but they do have to change their street shoes so we can protect the gym floors. So we ask that they carry extra running shoes, tennis shoes, whatever's comfortable to participate in PE. And want to point out that no jeans will be acceptable if they choose not to change. Okay, excuse me. All PE activities will adhere to the 3 W's, which is wear a mask, watch your distance, and wash your hands. The PE equipment will be washed down, taken care of every class period. The PE teachers are working on activities where social distancing can be adhered to throughout most of the sports or activities. For example, if badminton, they can set badminton up, they can be 6 feet apart, but one player might cross over in front of someone for a second. That's okay. They return to their point where they're playing. And again, we're going to monitor and adjust and be in these classes and see how well it's going and how excited the kids are. But we are going to keep students safe and wash down all equipment used between each class period. And Mrs. Suter, if you could put every bullet point up on this, it will help me just to summarize. COVID incident response. We've been so fortunate in this building and so proud of the work, like I said, of the district and our health, our nurse and health tech. But what we have to do is we have to be prepared in the event that we have a student who has COVID. We have 2, if somebody comes down ill, we have 2 isolation rooms. So if a student arrives to school, like I said, and they have a temperature of 100.4 or higher, myself and the nurse will work closely with that student, and we will have that student in one of the 2 isolation rooms while we're in communication with the family. And we want to keep them safe as well as everybody else. And then we'll be in contact with all of you. Excuse me. I want to point out that we have a COVID safety plan for Gig Harbor High School, and you can find that on the Gig Harbor High School website. It's very detailed, very, very detailed. So I really recommend if you have additional questions in regards to our safety plan here at Gig Harbor High School, please read that and reach out to me directly as I'm the supervisor or oversee that. I'd be glad to answer any questions if they're not answered tonight. But I do encourage you to go to the website. I believe we'll have it uploaded by the end of this meeting or first thing tomorrow morning. Okay. Transportation. This is always fun, especially on the first day of school, because parents are excited, students are excited, rightfully so. But we have the normal bus routes, and in that safety plan, there's actually a link about transportation and some of the COVID protocols, as well as some other information for bus rides, et cetera. So please, by all means, look at that, as well as reach out to the building tomorrow if you're having a hard time decide or determining which bus your child should take. But we, excuse me, we have drop off and pickup. We have 3 points on the campus. If you can look at this map, and I have to get a little closer, excuse me, because I'm so blind. But we're going to have all students who arrive by bus, they're going to be dropped off in the front at the main entrance. And that will be entrance number 1. We have over here, down here, here's the light where you come in. Thank you, Mrs. Suter. And we have entrance 2. This little blue outside there by entrance 2, we're going to ask all student drivers, except for seniors, to park right there and come in at entrance 2. If you are a parent that's dropping off your child, we are going to ask you to drive all the way in down the line to almost where the senior parking is, and you're going to drop your child off right below the roundabout. And then they're going to just walk up to entrance 3, which is the roundabout by the pool area by the gym. If you're picking up your child after school, we're going to ask that you come into the back lot and park where Mrs. Suter is circling around right there. And we're going to ask you to have your child walk down to the parking lot, because we want to limit any backup on Rosedale with 2 schools right next door. It just can be a nightmare sometimes. And again, we're going to monitor and adjust. If we find that our biggest area is bus drop off and pick up, we'll decide what we need to do. But for the first week, this is our plan. Students need to adhere to the 3 entrances. So all bus riders will come in the main entrance, all student drivers will come through entrance 2, and all students being dropped off by a parent will be dropped off down below the roundabout and check in at entrance number 3. Okay, and then we're on to when the students get into the building. We have breakfast served in the morning. It is free breakfast. Anybody is welcome to have breakfast. Students will come into the main building. If they want to grab a breakfast, it's a grab and go, and then they will head to their first period class. And then for dismissal, we're going to ask students to go out the way they entered, except for exceptions. So for example, if they came on a bus and they're going home on a bus, they're going out the main entrance. Suppose they rode on a bus in the morning, but mom or dad or somebody's going to pick them up in the afternoon, then they have to be picked up out back. So it's just important that there's good communication. We're going to limit students coming out to the front and hanging out, waiting for cars in the afternoon. Thank you, Mrs. Suter.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Grant. And I just have to say, you can tell I should have given you water or tea. That was a lot. And it is a lot. And Mrs. Grant has done an amazing job as our COVID supervisor and just getting us all prepared to have students back. So thank you so much for all of that. Now it's Mr. Gregory's turn.
All right, so I am here to talk about school meals, specifically lunch. And if you could give me all of those bullet points, that would be great. Thank you, Mrs. Sitter. Okay, so as Mrs. Grant mentioned, all of the meals are free this year. Lunches will be grab and go and pre-assembled, so students can just slide through the line and grab them. They are going to select their seat on the first day, and that's going to be their assigned seat for the remainder of the school year. It's really important that we be able to maintain contact tracing in the event that we do need to make sure if someone were to be sick, who they were around. And we've gone through our dean and success coach have done a great job putting sit here stickers throughout the building, and we've got numbered seats. So students are going to be choosing a seat at the beginning of the here at the end of this week and beginning of next week, and then that will be their seat for the rest of the school year. Students must remain seated to eat and remain in designated lunch spaces until they're excused to class. So we're not going to have them up and moving around. We've had students eating lunch in the building since September, small number of students, and we've learned as we've gone along that it works a lot more smoothly if they're seated the entire time. They will have a little time to clean up their area, a 2-minute heads up at the end of lunch, but really we ask that they remain seated that entire time. Spaces that we're going to eat lunch include the commons, the gym, and when weather permits, outside. We really, again, have these special areas for them to eat in, and that's going to be the best thing for everyone. Students are going to remain 6 feet apart while in line and when seated to eat. Again, we've measured each of our spaces several times, and the kids are safe to eat 6 feet apart. We do ask that they eat as quickly as they can. We're not expecting anybody to be silent while they eat. They're kids, they're going to talk. We do ask that they not be sliding together and sharing their phone screens and things like that. That tends to bring them a little closer. But again, they're kids, and we're going to give lots of reminders, and we know we'll get through it all together. No off-campus lunch or Uber Eats. Campus is closed this year, which does represent a change for our seniors. But we, again, really have to control that safety and just want to manage not having to have attestations again when they come back. So we are asking that students bring what they're going to eat or pick it up here. They're not going to be allowed delivery from Uber Eats or anybody else of fast food items, things like that. Just help them to focus on staying safe and being here to learn. The student store and vending machines are also closed. Those are extremely high touch areas and can tend to cause some congestion bottlenecks in the hallways. So we have taken those out for this year, and we'll be monitoring and adjusting as we go along. But for this year, those will be closed. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about academic content. What are they going to be learning while they are here? So the curriculum, the lessons and expectations are going to be relatively the same, though you'll need to account for some different teachers teaching remotely and in person. We've already had the students, if they were going to change teacher, they made that change at the semester. So they're going to still have the teacher that they've been having as we make that transition this Thursday, Friday to the new bell schedule. Schoology is still the best place to find out what the kids are learning. That's where teachers post content, links to assignments, they often put comments on those assignments there. We're working on school-wide consistency with Schoology. We've heard that a little bit, but each teacher is unique. And so you can expect generally the same experience on Schoology, though they are set up a little bit differently. Grades are reflected in Power School, and that's different than some of the middle schools, but our teachers have found that they really like to use Power School for the grades, and that's parents and kids are used to it. So that's a great place to look for the grades. And then attendance. So attendance is going to be taken on in-person and at-home days. One thing we've learned this school year is that kids tended to see Wednesdays when we were collaborating and doing homeroom as a bit of a day off. And we just want to remind you, it's not a day off, it's a day on. So when kids are on their off day, if they're in a cohort, they're in school on Mondays and Thursdays, but those Tuesday, Fridays really are days on, even though they're looking different. They're not sitting on a Zoom or anything, but they are going to have some review activity to do to get them ready for the next lesson or some kind of a homework assignment. So attendance is going to be taken on in-person and at-home days. What that's going to look like is the teacher will give them some kind of a way, usually a Google form, to fill out, hey, what did you do on that off day, on that asynchronous learning day, not the off day? What did you do there as a proof of learning? They'll just submit that, and then the teacher can keep track. We ask that they get those assignments done by about 1:30 so teachers can check on how they did that day. When a student is absent from a class period, a call will go home. If you want to excuse a student, call our attendance office there at 530-1428. Again, if a student is experiencing COVID-like symptoms, they must remain home until they're well or receive a negative test. We really want to put everybody's safety and health first.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. I appreciate that very much. I just want to talk a little bit about ways to be involved. So we have sports happening right now, and we have more seasons to come. So we're really excited for that. This is this little graphic. It just shows you a little bit. I know it's really tiny, but right now, of course, we have volleyball, volleyball, football, and girls soccer happening right now, as well as cross country, golf, and girls swim and dive. So those are all happening right now. We are competing and doing well, and that's very exciting. But there's also opportunities to continue for our students to come out in the next 2 seasons as well. And the registration is open right now for season 2 at athletics. And you can see that there are some sports that have no cuts just simply because we don't need to cut in those sports or because of the kind of sport that it is. So just encourage you. We have track and field coming out, girls tennis, boys swim and dive. And then we also have baseball. I know this is the middle, so it's a little different. We have to kind of wrap our heads around this because this is a little different season than we're used to. We have baseball and softball and then boys soccer coming up as well. And that there's some depends on there in terms of whether there are cuts or not. It usually depends on how many turn out and what we have to do at that point. And then of course we have season 3. We are part of the SPSL League right now, which puts us with some co-op schools like Rogers and ER, and then also puts us with Bellarmine and other ones. So you can log on to our website and check out our athletics or follow our athletic director on Twitter because he's always posting great things. These are some shots from this year, which is just so fun. So we've been able to watch that happen. So just encourage students to come out for that. And then we also have clubs happening right now. So there are all sorts of clubs. They've been happening virtually. Students can still sign up. We will relaunch these again so that students have an opportunity. But you can see there are so many great opportunities for students to get involved with others on campus, following kind of like their passion and what they're really interested in. We had our opportunity to put on our first theater performance, and we streamed it, which was great. We had students on campus performing, and it was an amazing opportunity. So just want to encourage you to get your students involved. As parents, there are also ways for you to be involved, whether it's athletics, in terms of boosters, volunteering and things like that. But one way you can help out is we do have our Gig Harbor Tide Scholarship Foundation. And this foundation has been going on for a long time, and they are looking for volunteers. So we just want to share with you, this organization raises about $30,000 every year to give scholarships to Gig Harbor High School students. And so it's an amazing opportunity. We're looking for kind of this next wave of parents to come alongside and to continue taking up the torch and helping. And there's more information on that and in my Tides Tuesday update as well. Speaking of the Tides Tuesday update, I send out communications every week on Tuesdays. You can find information on our website as well. And then we do have social media. We have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, and then, like I said, our AD is on Twitter. If you need something immediately, you can always call the school to connect with us, and we will get back to you. It is our commitment to get back to you within 24 hours of getting an email. So if you need anything at all, you can reach out to our admin team, our office staff, our dean, our success coach. We have lots of people, our counselors that are available, as well as our amazing teachers who are amazing. I just want to just wrap this evening up before we go into questions. We're going to answer questions in just a minute. Just want to have a moment to talk about some of these essential habits for school success. And the first one is really important. This is the A-B hybrid is going to be different from what our students are experiencing, because as it is right now, every day they go into a Zoom or every day they have a class. When it's in the hybrid, they're going to go on they're going to have A and B days, and they're going to have those, what we call asynchronous days. So really important to set a consistent location and develop a schedule for students working on their asynchronous days. We're going to work with them on our end. Our teachers, our counselors, their homeroom advisors are going to work with them on setting up a schedule. But that consistency is hugely important. And they are going to have, I can't say this enough, on their non-school campus day, they're going to have schoolwork that's going to be expected for them. Either it's going to be a follow-up to what they did in the class or prepping them for what's to come. So really important that they get that work done and have it set in their heads. The other thing I would just encourage is a conversation to have between families. It's setting expectations for device usage, phones and computers while students are on campus. Our students have gotten really used to having access to technology at their fingertips literally all day long. And when they come on campus, there are going to be times when they're not going to need their Chromebooks in a class for something, or we're going to ask them to have their phones put away. And this is actually one of my favorite graphics that I've shown before. This was a one class period, a fourth period class where a teacher had her students every time they got a notification on their phone to get up and mark it on this chart that she had created. And this was the number of notifications for one class period that students had received. And so every single time, whether it's a notification or an interruption, is an interruption to learning. And it's amazing how many times our students say, but it's from my mom, or it's from my dad, or it's from, you know, and we understand that communication has to take place, but maybe having those conversations where maybe what the appropriate time is. Just because I texted you in class doesn't mean you need to look at it in class or things like that. But I just want to encourage you to really have those conversations about phones, especially in computers while they're on campus. Be on time. We are excited to be here, and we really do believe in teaching bell to bell. And as this chart also indicates in terms of interruptions, every time a student is late, a door gets opened, it distracts from the learning. So we just really ask for you to make sure that your students are on time so that we can make sure that we're using the maximum amount of time for our learning. Students need to remember to bring their Chromebook charged every day. The charging piece seems to be the tricky piece. So they really do need to just plug it in at night. We expect to have less paper than we've had in the past because we've just gotten used to using some of the tools that technology offers us. So students do need to bring them every day to school charged, and that would be incredibly helpful. And then finally, one of the last things is just, I want to encourage you to allow your student to advocate for themselves. I was talking with a parent recently and I said, In the high school, we have 8 semesters to take a student from a junior higher to an adult. So just like let that sink in for a moment. 8 semesters to take a child from a junior high student to an adult. And so I like to think of it as tethering, which is if you think of a kite, when it's, it's starting to tether out a little and then you tether it out a little bit more and then finally it's soaring. If you think about 9th through 12th grade in that same way, we really want to encourage our students to advocate for themselves so that they can begin owning, so they can have self-efficacy, so they know how to have conversations with adults if they have questions or they want to have a conversation about a grade. That's why we will always direct the student to the teacher first. So just encourage you to be a part of that conversation with your student. Have them go to the teacher first before you have that conversation. Just encourage that because they can be brave and resilient. And then we just want you to know our team is here for you. We're here for you. Our admin team is here. Our teachers who have done just an amazing job. Our counselors, our whole staff is here for you. And we want this to be just a really successful experience. I'll leave you with this. We talk a lot here about the Tide Way, which is to live with integrity. And we really emphasize this idea of what it looks like to be kind, to be engaged, and be responsible. Our students will hear a lot about that as they come back, and then more as we go through our time together. So now we're going to go for questions. And before we send you off, we want you to go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A if you would, not in the chat. If we can choose or did we choose the chat? Okay, I think we chose the chat, but I see some people putting it in the Q&A, so we might have to bounce back and forth a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we will, and then we'll go ahead and answer those questions. And then I think what I'll do is I'll ask Mr. Gregory if he would monitor the chat, and Mrs. Grant if you would monitor the Q&A, since we have both of them going at the same time. And why don't we just go ahead and start with the Q&A, because we might find some there. Mrs. Grant?
Is there the potential to make the attestation form an online form versus a paper form?
You can answer that question.
Unfortunately not. That's why we're supplying enough for every family, but please don't hesitate to ask for more if you need them.
Thank you. Next one.
What is the policy for Running Start students that only have one class in the middle of the day?
Great question. So they will park in the back, but they will enter through the front. The reality of it is we have to make sure the students come in and have their attestation form and their temperature taken. And so the front entrance is the location for coming in the middle of the day.
Are there plans to open the pool? My son has swim as an elective.
Mrs. Grant?
Not as of yet. I am very hopeful that that could change, so stay posted.
That's what we hope, yep.
Is there a specific entrance or exit to the parking lot for the parents? So I might interpret this 2 different ways. If you are just dropping off and picking up, we ask that you go to the main light and go in there and drop off quickly and head home, do whatever. After school picking up, we ask that you park in a parking spot so we can keep Rosedale free of backups. But if you're a parent who needs to come into the building, then we ask that you come in at the main entrance to take care of if you have a meeting or anything like that. So it really depends as a parent what you're looking for. And let's see, is the AM parent drop-off area the same as the pickup, the highlighted magenta area? Can we still drop in at the front of the school? So I think my previous answer answered that, except for in the morning, it's really drop and go. You do not need to park your car. You're going to be seeing it on Monday or Tuesday, whichever day you're coming, and we're going to have plenty of staff out there motioning you, directing you where to go, and then quickly let your child off, and you'll be able to turn around without difficulty and then leave the parking lot. And can we still drop off in the front of the school? We ask not. We really need to maintain separate areas. And let's see, next.
Can
I
students come to school early or do they have to be right on time?
I'm sorry, repeat that. Did you make a statement or was that a question?
That's a question. Can students come to school early or do they have to be right on time?
That's a really great question. We ask that no student arrive before 7 o'clock because teachers are not here to receive students, except if your child is in band and attending 0 hour. Okay, and then I access Power School through the link on the Kopachuk website, and that worked. Okay, great. If a student is attending in person but has one virtual class, where do they go to the virtual class? That's a really excellent question. Either the student's counselor or one of the administrators are going to work closely, and most often the students will be in the library. For students being dropped off by a parent for 0 period, would they still enter at the entrance 3? Well, that is a really excellent question. And I forgot to address that. Actually, it is entrance 3 and Mr. Swanson and Mr. Batchelor will be there bright and early, ready to receive your child and go through the attestation process. Okay. We answered the pool, I believe. What date is cheer tryouts? I know Mrs. Suter will update you on her Tuesday tides. Can the COVID forms be downloaded, printed, and completed and brought in daily to expedite the? Absolutely. Whomever this parent is, share that with everybody you know. And that's one thing I did forget to mention. It really will be a bottleneck if kids arrive without the attestation form. So we don't want anyone to be late to first period. So having it filled out completely will really expedite that process. How will the students be able to check in on asynchronous days? I believe that Mr. Gregory touched base on that, but the child's teacher will take he or she through that first thing.
Mrs. Grant, we missed one about a parking pass. So in my Tides Tuesday update that I sent out today, there is a form to go on, and we're not charging for parking this year, but they still need a pass. And so you still have to go through that process. But if you look at the Tides Tuesday update, it has that process for you. Okay, great. West Sound Tech buses running. Yes, they are. Are the upper grades Zooming on Thursday or Friday, depending on for this week, Thursday and Friday? Mrs. Studer, I'm going to let you answer that. Yeah, thank you. So for hybrid, for 10th through 12th grade students who are on the hybrid, who are going to be on campus, they have asynchronous classes those days. In other words, they're going to have assignments and learning from their teachers that are going to be sent to them. They are not Zooming on Thursday or Friday of this week only. Thank you so much. Is the quarantine period for student athletes after spring break of having traveled out of state? That's an excellent question that we're going to get back to you on that. We're going to touch base with Mr. Warner, our AD. When do West Sound Tech students eat lunch? They are released out of third period a few minutes early to grab their lunch and go and get on the bus. They eat their lunch on the bus as they travel. Is there social distancing on the bus? There will be assigned seats on the bus, but windows will be open. But as for 6 feet apart, everything that we've been told by the head of transportation is that students can safely travel on a bus with windows open in an assigned seat. So you may have a student sitting next to you. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. I have 2 questions. With grab and go breakfast, will students just eat during first period? So students will only eat during first period and they're encouraged to eat in the first 5 to 10 minutes. So if you're going to have breakfast, we would encourage that a student arrive by 7:15, grab your breakfast, head to your first period so that you can eat lunch without scarfing it down. Because when class starts, unless somebody was tardy and needs breakfast, we want to go right to the beginning of class. On Wednesday, will classes be online via Zoom? Schoology, Mrs. Suter. They will be via Zoom. And so The students will have Zoom sessions with their teachers, periods 1 through 6. They'll also have their homeroom. And then there is time in there also for some office hours and student support. So the schedules are posted. They're actually, again, the Tides Tuesday update. Sorry, I keep having to say it. I did post them today in there, but they will also be on our website. I believe they're being uploaded by tomorrow to have those schedules on our webpage.
This is a really important question for all students. How is it decided who they'll sit with at lunch? And boy, did we go around and around and around. So students now know what cohort they're in, and student teachers know what lunches a child has. So teachers have been informing students that they either have first or second lunch. We encourage kids to talk with their friends and say, what lunch do you have? And be prepared to come to first lunch when we call you down to sit with your friends. Because the seat that you're assigned, that you pick with your friends, is the seat that you'll be sitting in for the remainder of the school year. And that sounds ominous, but it really isn't. We only have roughly 74, 75 days, but the students will only be on campus half that time. So I think it's really manageable. So have your child check what lunch their friend has, but please know, we don't want anyone sitting alone, and we will monitor and adjust. Do freshmen go to first period first thing on Thursday?
Yes, they do.
Where can we
Yes.
download the COVID pre-screen forms to print? Couple of places on the website, the COVID safety plan, the link is there. I know Mrs. Suter has sent it out, and we will be sending hard copies home with your child on Monday or Tuesday. Can an 18-year-old child sign their own attestation slip? Yes. Do senior drivers enter through entrance 2 or 3? Excellent questions. Seniors have the senior parking lot, which is out by entrance 3. So I say go for entrance 3, but they'll never be turned away if they go through entrance 2. We want seniors to be happy and back on campus. What does lunch seating area look like? I heard something about the numbers being assigned. Can you walk us through what this will look like? Michelle, I'll let you take it.
Yep. So we have marked areas in the commons and also in our main gym, and all throughout we've measured, and there are little green spots for them to choose. So when, like Mrs. Grant said, when they come down and they get to come to lunch, and then they go in their area and they sit with their friends, and then that's their assigned seat. That's where they will stay, and they'll sit, and they're distanced by 6 feet apart. They decide their own assigned seat. We've talked about a number of these other ones, so I don't want to belabor, because I want to jump over to the chat, and I know we're running out of time here in just a minute. Just so for the freshmen that are coming in the building this week, we're going to have a map for them, so they won't get lost. We'll make sure that they know exactly where they're going. Also, I did send out on, oh gosh, it seems like so long ago. I think it was yesterday. Specifically an email for freshman parents and it had the map in there as well, so students can familiarize themselves with it ahead of time if they'd like to. As we jump over to the chat, Mr. Gregory, do you have some questions for us that we can quickly go through before
Yes.
we're done here?
Yeah, a couple of questions that are different than the chat, the ones in the Q&A. Will there still be a homeroom on Wednesday? Yes. There is still a homeroom on Wednesday, and it is online. Can you please share the presentation so we can refer to it after the Zoom call? Yes,
Yes, and it's also being recorded, so if you want to go back and listen to it or watch it, but yes, I will share it all in a PDF, so you can just print it and look at it all.
Yeah. Another question was no lockers. Again, the lockers are for PE. We're not using our regular lockers except for band students that have certain size instruments that can't be stored somewhere else. They'll be using lockers, but other than that, no general purpose lockers, just PE lockers. Will students be able to go into the PE locker rooms before school starts to put their items in their locker if they remain 6 feet apart? That's an excellent question. Mrs. Grant?
Pardon me?
For PE, I'm assuming?
For PE, yes.
Yes, I was going to clarify if it's for PE. All teachers will be in their classrooms at 7 a.m. So please know that if a student walks into the locker room to stow their stuff, the PE teachers will be there and we'll be watching social distancing.
Couple more about athletics. What are you referring to with cuts in athletics? No cut sports are where we don't say, sorry, you didn't make the team. So there's certain sports like track where everyone is welcome regardless of skill level. It's about participation and personal growth and being part of the team. So a no cut sport, just everyone is welcome. What or where can students go if they have sports shortly after school? Can they stay after school since sports is shortly after school ends? Can they change into sports practice clothes after school? Will they have a place they can store their school items if they don't go home?
All really excellent questions. Mr. Bob Warner is working with coaches and will disseminate that information to the players. Coming shortly.
Okay, another excellent question. My student will be a parent drop-off pickup, but he has a torn ACL. It appears to be a long walk to that entrance. Is there a closer entrance?
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's an exception.
Yep.
Okay, so to that family, please call me, Mrs. Grant, tomorrow, and we'll work through that exception.
Okay, some of these have been answered before. Will sophomores be allowed to drive to school this year?
Have sophomores not been able to drive to school before?
Well, it's a hot commodity, but we have spaces available. When we're 1,400 students in the building, it's tough for sophomores. So a really good question. We'll make sure that actually just have that parent call Mrs. Grant directly tomorrow. We'll figure that one out and we'll get information.
With half of our students on campus every other day, it shouldn't be a problem. So, so I did send out information about school this week. They are learning. There's asynchronous learning for 10th through 12th graders. So I want to make sure they get that. I also sent out information about graduation, and so did PSD, sent out information about graduation for those senior parents who want to know what's going to be happening for that. Parents are allowed at sporting events. It depends, actually, I should say this, it depends on the sporting event, because what we're limited by is capacity. And so our big teams means we have less people able to come and view the sporting event. So our athletic director has been handing out passes for students when we're allowed to have family members come or guests come to watch. So I've saved the chat and we'll go through it as an administrative team. We'll go through and we'll see if there's something in particular that really stands out. We need to make sure that we okay, I see a question about the fans and the question about so again, as of right now, in the seasons that we're in right now, we are in the SPSL League, and in the SPSL League, we are allowing parents, certain number of parents, certain number of fans when the capacity allows. So again, it goes down to when capacity allows. We have a very large football team, so that's going to mean that we have less spots for fans, parents, etc., to come. We might have fewer people, say, at soccer, and so we have soccer players, which means we can have more capacity for that. If you have any questions on that at all, though, feel free to reach out to our athletic director, Bob Warner. Just go onto our athletic page, and he can go ahead and answer any questions that you have about athletics. So we don't have anything more to share with you this evening, but we're saving the chat. We will get more information to you as it comes. We thank you so much for being here with us this evening. We are so looking forward to having our students back on campus, and we just wish you a great night. So thank you very much.